Hello and welcome to this exclusive surprise video for the Voice Note AI agent. And in this video, we will cover the AI prompt structure that I use for every single AI command that you have access to in the Voice Note AI agent. So this is a powerful knowledge about artificial intelligence that you can take into your life, into your usage of Tana and also other AI tools, because this represents some fundamental principles of how to interact with artificial intelligence to get better results, because you're being clearer and more structured in your instructions for AI. And this means that you'll receive clearer and better outputs from AI. So I really hope you enjoy what we'll be going through in this video. And I hope that you take a lot from this. Now, I want to start off by thanking you so much for providing feedback, for being a part of this community, and for engaging with me, because together we are able to build more and better systems that even other people are going to benefit from. So I hope this video is a valuable addition and a valuable trade token for you being a part of this and for providing your feedback. So let me know if you enjoy. I'll be glad to talk more about the concepts that we will be covering here in this video. So that said, let's get started here. And I want to mention that the things we will see today have a very practical value, because you can implement them by writing new AI prompts, as I said, both in Tana and also on other tools. But there's also a lot of theoretical value on what I'm going to bring today, because I have studied this for a long time. As you might know, I have a master's degree in computer science, so I have been understanding this technology and also using this technology to improve my understanding. So I've arrived at a place where I can really feel and understand how all of this artificial intelligence technology works. And I want to give you a part of that understanding by analyzing the prompts themselves and by giving you some explanations of how these prompts are structured. So that said, let's get started. So I want to start with an image that describes a basic prompt. And this is fundamental to how every single interaction with AI is going to work, because you are dealing with an input and an output, right? So you are providing input data, then AI is going to execute a specific process in the middle, and then you're going to generate an output from the data and from the process that AI has been through. So on the input, this is all of the data that AI has access to, because sometimes you are not providing a specific and explicit input. So sometimes you are just providing a task, right? So you're giving AI a process that you want it to execute. And in that case, AI is going to access all of the data, all of the input data that it already has, because it was trained on several million, billion pieces of information that are usually found on the web, some from other data sets. But these are all being used as input, and AI is going to process all of that and generate an output for you. Right? So this is a very basic prompt where you are explaining the task that you want AI to execute. You might give it a piece of input, some data, and then AI is going to generate an output. So this is the basic version, and this can give you okay results, because as AI models get better, these models might be able to generate better outputs, even though the process is not very clear, even though the input is not very structured and formal for AI. Now, this can improve considerably if we provide more structure for AI. Now, let's remember that AI is a machine, and machines work very well with equations, with formulas, with structure. So for this reason, I have prepared an image where we are breaking down the input, the process, and the output into other categories to help us get this structure in place. So this is what it looks like. Now, a structured prompt is a prompt where you are being extra clear on who AI is, what information it has access to, what exactly you want it to do, and how you want it to give you the answer. And this is what I call the PASFEC or PASFEC. So this represents the order in which I present each of these components to AI inside a prompt. So I start with the persona, which is the first thing I want AI to know is who it is, what type of knowledge it should embody when answering this question or when executing on this prompt. Second thing is the action, because I wanted to know soon what action it should be executing, because this shapes all the rest of the prompt, and this is an important information. Then I go for the steps, because this is basically expanding on the specific action by detailing what steps I want AI to go through. And then I go to format, the example, because these two are connected. So the format explains how I want the output to be structured, and the example works to back up the description of the format by giving an example of how this output looks like. And then finally, the context is all of the data that you want to provide as additional information for AI. So I like to leave this at the end because sometimes the context is really big, such as a very long voice note, or maybe you have a collection of notes that you're providing as a context. So this can be big, and I want AI to have access to this at the end so it doesn't ignore any important instructions that might be after the context, right? So instead of leaving instructions after the context, I put them beforehand. This is why the context comes at the end of the prompts and not at the beginning. So let's take a look at each of these. So first of all, on the input side, you have a very powerful way to improve AI's responses and the data that it has access to by simply providing a persona for AI. So a persona is who AI represents and what knowledge it has access to. Now, I could go into technical terms here as to why this is useful, but I want to make things simple. So the reason why this is useful is that once you define a persona for AI, it will know where in the millions and billions of data that it has as input, where should it look for your answer, and where should it take data to help it in the process of answering your prompt. So this is why a persona is useful, and a persona works to guide AI as to what it knows how to do and who it should be in order to best serve you, who is making the request to AI. Now, the context is also a piece of input, and it's a detailed breakdown of all of the data that you want to give AI for any given prompt. So in the case of the voice note AI agent, the context is always the transcript. So the transcript with the voice note, with everything that you spoke, this is the context. So this gives you a clear example of what a context is. So the context is basically everything that surrounds your request, right? So it's the data that you're providing. It might be the name of the project that you're working on. It might be a description of who you are and what you're interested in. So these are context, because AI doesn't know anything outside of the specific prompt that you are writing to it. So if you don't provide a context of why this is useful to you or what information you're giving AI, so AI can't help you with specific details unless you provide a context. So these are related to the input for AI. Now, we are also going to cover some parts of the process and the output. So in the process, we are talking about the action and a set of steps or instructions that you are providing to AI. So the action is a statement describing what you want AI to do. So what is the task and what is the outcome that you want? And the steps are a chance for you to break this action into clear steps that you want AI to execute in what specific order. So I'm going to show an example of every single component here. I'm just giving you a quick overview right now. So these are also super powerful because you can heavily influence how AI is going to process your request. So what's the order of things that AI is going to do and how it should approach the problem at hand. Now, on the output side, these two components, the format and the example, are both collaborating to show AI what is the output that you want from it and how you want that to be structured. So this is all about providing the guidelines and the guardrails so that AI knows exactly what you want as an output. And if you want flexible outcomes, you can describe this in the format. So this doesn't work only to have rigid structured outputs. This can also work to have creative and expansive outputs as well. So these are all of the steps that we have gathered around here. Now, this is the image that illustrates how this process looks like. Now, I really want to dive into a practical view of how this looks like in practice. So there are two things that I want to show. First one is this explanation of the AI prompt structure. So here you will see that I have a phrase written down that covers all of these components that we've been talking about. And this serves as a map of all of these components inside a prompt for AI, such that AI understands that it's going to be handed a prompt with a context, which represents the data, right? So this is the first thing. Please respond to the following prompt based on the context below. And here I explain to AI that it should take into consideration the action to execute, the persona that it represents, the steps to take, the format for the output, and possibly an example output describing this format. So I'm basically writing into a paragraph this diagram that I just described to you. But since I can't give this diagram to AI on every prompt, I'm explaining this in a text that I use in every single prompt, because this guides AI as to how it should interpret the prompt that it is receiving. This is the first thing that I wanted to show. Now, here is the interesting and important part for us. And it's the example of a couple of AI prompts that show this in practice. So I want to start off with the prompt for the brainstorm of ideas. So I'm going to expand the configurations for this AI command. So this is a more advanced aspect of Tana, and this means you might want to explore this yourself, or you might not, depending on your specific interests. But either way, this is useful because this will give you some insights as to what's going on behind the scenes and how the prompt is structured, and also give you an idea as how you can improve other prompts, even if it's just with one or two of these 6 components that we've been talking about in this video. So here I'm quickly going to go through these fields, these configurations, but I really want to focus on the prompt here. So bear with me. This first field is a description of which AI model to use. So in this case, I'm using GPT-4 Turbo. You could choose GPT-4o as well. These are the 2 best models at the moment. But as AI models improve, we will get access to even better AI models here. So this is where to make these configurations or these changes inside Tana and inside a specific AI command. Now, the second one is the temperature. As you can see here, it talks about kind of the creativity that AI is going to embody in this answer. So it's between 0 and 2, 0.8 is kind of slightly creative. So this is also one of the parameters that we have here. The target node is where this output will be generated. And you can see it's inside this node called voice agent output. And the output strategy describes that the output should be a child of this specific node. So these are the configurations here. Now we're all set to explore this prompt. Now, of course, you will see that this is already structured with all of these 6 steps that we've been looking at. And not sure if this is too small. I hope this is good enough, but just so you take a look, in this kind of short version here, you're going to see that there's the persona here, first thing, then the action, steps, format, the example, and finally the context, right? So within each of these, I'm going to expand them and give a quick explanation of how they work in order to improve the answer of this specific prompt, which is all about generating a brainstorm of ideas. So let's start with the persona here. And as you can see, there are a couple of informations here. This is a slightly, say, long persona. So here you'll see that I'm explaining to AI that it is a personal assistant with the skill of writing in a similar way as the author. This helps AI to keep the original tone and the original style of speaking or writing that you used in your prompts. And then I'm giving it more depth as to what areas it has expertise in. So you are a panel of experts in note-taking, ideation, and writing reports. So this gives AI the characters that it should be using when executing this prompt, right? So it has to do with note-taking, with ideation, because this is a brainstorm, and with writing, right? So, and capturing those ideas and expressing them, and also experience in providing structured account of the author's notes. So this is, again, talking about structure so that AI represents these ideas with clarity. And finally, this is just an explanation that the context is a brainstorm session, right? So this could be in other languages other than English. So this is why this specific language is here. But this is explaining to AI a little bit about the input and about its position within this prompt. So from here, I give a clear explanation of what is the action that AI will generate and what is the output that it will generate to me. So here you will see that I start with the output, which is you will generate an output based on a voice note recorded by the user and already transcribed for you. And here is the specific action that it's going to take. So analyze my brainstorm session and create a detailed outline of ideas based on what was mentioned in the text. So this is just the action that AI would perform. And if we go for a traditional prompt, this is basically everything that would be included in a traditional prompt, right? If we look at this basic prompt, this is usually everything that people provide to AI. It's just the action. So in this case of a more elaborate prompt, the action becomes one component within this entire map of different components. So you're giving the action, but you're also providing several other pieces of information that will help AI to perform a better job on this action. And one of the key components here are the steps. So here you will see that I've separated 4 steps for this specific prompt, the brainstorm of ideas. And these steps are my interpretation of how I believe AI will do a good job on this specific task, right? So there could be several different steps and orders of different steps that we could use in order to get AI to write a brainstorm outline, right? So I want to make it clear that this is how I would do this. And this means that you can come here inside the prompt and make specific changes to the steps in order for this brainstorm outline to better suit your needs instead of my needs or my imagination of what your needs are, right? So this is a part of why this is valuable, because you can understand both on a theoretical way what components are important in an AI prompt, and also in a practical way how to come here into the prompt structure and actually change these such that they are better suited and better adapted for your specific situation. So here in the steps, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to explain what are the steps in this specific scenario. I just want to illustrate that these are the steps that AI will follow when generating a brainstorm outline, right? So here we start by identifying all the ideas brainstormed and organizing them in a big list. And then for each idea, I want AI to explain this idea in detail based on the transcript. And then I want AI, again, for each idea to suggest a creative way to make this idea better, right? I'm calling this the AI advice. So you can see that I first outline a big list, and then for each item in the list, I want AI to do multiple steps, right? And then at the end, I wanted to pick a catchy and descriptive brainstorm name for the entire brainstorm session. And this is just so we can wrap up and give this a title, basically. Now, the steps are also connected to the format, right? Because you will see that I've described what I want AI to do in what sequence, and the format is going to be a description of how I want this to be outputted back to me, right? So here, I want the AI to know specific set of instructions on how to format this output. So these will be very important, especially in Tana, because we are dealing with super tags and with fields sometimes. Specifically in the voice note AI agent, there are a couple of different smart objects and AI commands that generate super tags, right? So they generate answers that have specific super tags at the end, and sometimes they have fields with a couple of additional information as well. So as we will see, the format describes exactly how AI should organize this answer for us, taking into consideration a couple of specific nuances of how Tana works. And I'm going to give you, again, a quick overview of this. So one of the things that is important in Tana is that this output should be in a markdown format or a markdown list, because this is one of the ways in which the Tana paste works. So when we run an AI command, we are basically copying and pasting material into Tana, but everything is done by AI and by open. One of the important things here is that the output should be in a markdown format or as a markdown list, because inputs in Tana are usually using this markdown format with a couple of changes. Another important piece of information here is that I want to indent all of the summary under a node called the Brainstorm name, which maps to the Brainstorm name that we've described here on the last step, for example. Now, a couple of these other instructions are related to ways that AI should be writing. So in this case, I want AI to organize each idea with a descriptive title and an expanded description. So it should include both in the same line without a line break. And here I'm explaining what is the specific tag that I want each of these items to have, right? So this is an important part of the instruction, because as we talked about, these are specific instructions that are related to how Tana works, right? So this should be at the end of the line, right? Because that's where the tags come in Tana. And this last piece of instruction is also related to this, because I'm first explaining that it should follow the format below, which means here in the example, but I'm also mentioning that it should come with a tag called Brainstorm outline added to the first node, such that the first node comes with this tag called Brainstorm outline, and then everything else is indented underneath, which means that we are creating one smart object that contains all of the output created by AI. And here we have, of course, already jumped into this fifth component, which is the example. And this is super important. And most of the time that I spend fine-tuning this prompt is usually in the example, because this is the part of the prompt where you get the most direct interaction with AI. So the changes that you make in the example, they have an instant reflection in the output that AI generates, because it understands example very well, right? So if you change a couple of words here, the output could be completely different, right? So this is a general description of what I want, right? So I want this Brainstorm name with the Brainstorm outline tag. And here on the bottom, you will see that there is this space before the hyphen. And this is what explains to AI that this is indented below the Brainstorm name. The same happens here with the second idea. There is one space here before the hyphen. And here on the AI suggestion, there are two spaces. So this is just to show that this represents these levels of indentation inside Tana. So here inside this single idea, I am explaining and showing visually what I have described here in the format. So let's see. Organize each idea with a descriptive title in bold. So if we look here, you will see that there is the idea title with the two asterisks representing the bold. And then the next thing is have an expanded description. So the expanded description is this paragraph with description. And then we're adding the tag after that. So the Brainstorm idea tag in this case. So this is a very good way to illustrate that the example is this living example of everything you've described in the format. And this is super key to guide AI, because these two work very well in combination, right? The descriptive format and the example of what exactly you want. And you can see that I don't need to actually write a paragraph with a description. I can just mention that, okay, this is a paragraph with a description, right? So here you should be placing a paragraph, right? And here there are some very interesting nuances about how AI works. Because if we change this paragraph word for phrase, this might change the entire output, right? Because instead of returning a paragraph with a description, which would be a detailed description of an idea with several phrases explaining this topic, instead, AI would give us a simple and short phrase with a description. And this means the ideas would be less elaborate and would be simpler and with less depth than if you ask for a paragraph, right? So this is a good way to understand that how you structure a prompt is actually super important in the output that's going to show up. So let's leave this as the paragraph because that's what we want. And for these AI suggestions, you'll see that they are indented 2 levels beneath the original node. So this means that the AI suggestions are indented inside each of the ideas, which means they kind of belong to an idea, right? And this is, again, represented in the example. And it's something that I didn't even mention in the format, right? And this is important to note because I mentioned this in the steps, right? So suggest a creative way to make this idea better. And I called this AI advice, right? So here I'm calling this AI advice again. Let's do that. But notice that I didn't explain this in the format, right? But I'm showing it in the example. So this is powerful, right? You can show what you want AI to do and it will understand. And honestly, this is one of the best possible ways that you can explain something to AI is by actually writing it out and explaining it in the actual format that you want in the form of an example, right? Now, this brings us into this last component, which is actually super simple, right? In this case, the context is the voice note itself, right? So remember, we've talked about the context as being part of the input, and this represents all of the data related to this specific request, right? So in this case, the context is the transcript. It's the voice note that you've just recorded and that we are providing to AI in order for it to run these AI commands and provide us with this answer that is structured on a specific format that we have described, right? So this is a complete overview of each of these components. Now, I want to briefly show an output here so that you see this in action, right? And we can actually compare the, let's say, the steps and the format that we have seen here on the right as a explanation of what we want so that we can see how this looks like in practice with a real example of what this looks like once we run the AI command. So let's go here into the demo. I'm going to open up a couple of voice notes. So let's choose this one. I like this voice note. You can see there's already one generated here, but I'm going to go ahead and generate a new brainstorm of ideas. And here we are going to see that AI will generate this output based on the voice note. It's going to analyze the brainstorm session and create a detailed outline of ideas. It's going to identify all of the ideas, and for each of them, it's going to explain it in detail, and it's going to provide an AI advice. And you can see it has provided a catchy and descriptive Brainstorm name, the future of knowledge sharing. And once we expand this, you will see that this follows the format that we have described. So here the output is in English. I could change this to another language. I could change this to Portuguese if I want to, and the output would then be in Portuguese. And as you can see, it has provided each of the ideas with the Brainstorm idea tag, which was described over here. Inside each of these, you will see that there is an AI advice. So this was step number 3, and it's demonstrated here in the example, right, with the AI advice in bold. So these asterisks represent the bold in the markdown format and in Tana. And you can see that it works exactly as we expected, right? So this is not something that happened overnight. This took me several, I would say maybe hundreds of tries in order to get this exact prompt that I have right now, right? With all of these specific instructions, with all of these formats, with the exact example that I'm using here, because this is it. This is what artificial intelligence is all about, right? It's about trial and error, because I'm going to generate a brainstorm. I'm going to see that, oh, wait, there's something that I didn't want to happen, right? Or there's something that I didn't expect. Then I can come back into the prompt. I can change a specific step. So I can add an extra step. I can include an extra instruction for the formatting. And then I can run this again. And I can see the result again. I can keep on going and keep on improving these prompts. And that's exactly what I've been doing for over a year. I've been improving these prompts. And a big part of improving them is what you see here with this diagram. It's having a specific structure that helps me improve this prompt, right? And this is a very key aspect here, because once you have these categories, you have a place within a prompt to add some information, right? So if you want to add information or change, make a fine tuning about the output that you are receiving, then you're going to go into the format, into the example, right? Because that's where you're describing the output. If there's something wrong with the process, right, with the quality of the answer, let's say, then maybe you could add an extra step, right? So that AI has an even better set of instructions to act upon your request. And for example, if you want to make some changes to the input to who AI should be representing, on what knowledge AI should have access to, then you can change the persona, for example, right? So these give you a place inside the prompt to add specific instructions and to see your prompt as this multi-dimensional set of instructions where you're dealing with several different components and not just with that central action, right? As we talked about, this action is common to every single prompt that you're going to see everyone using all around the internet, right? This is a basic prompt, right? You're just defining the action here in the middle in the process. You're leaving AI to access its database, its default training set as the input. And from there, you're going to receive an output, right? So but this is super basic. This is super simple. If you actually want to go deeper and get insightful and detailed answers from AI, you can use the structured prompt, right? Where you have a quality input where you're describing a specific persona and you're providing your personal context and your data in order to get a answer that is based on what you have to say and what you have as knowledge, right? And not the general web or a general and generic data set. And of course, you can describe a specific set of instructions or steps for AI to follow You can provide a format that you want AI to use, and you can detail an example of that format, everything in a structured way where these components fit into the prompt, and you can even see them in a glimpse, right? Because you can open up any of these prompts and you can immediately focus on the part that is most relevant, right? So if you're having problems with the format, you don't need to necessarily open the action and have this visible. You can come over here, you can open the format, and then you can add extra information here so that AI knows exactly what you want as an output. So this was the main example that I had for you today, the brainstorm of ideas command. I had added another command that we could explore, which was the reflection. But this first one has already covered everything that we needed to see. This is already a very complete video. So this is enough for today. And just as a quick recap for everything that we've seen so far in this video, the key message that I want you to take from today is that you can massively improve the quality of your answers with AI by moving away from a basic prompt to a structured prompt where you are adding extra information about the input, the process, and the output, right? Specifically, the persona and the context for the input, the action and the specific steps for the process, and for the output, the format and an example or a demonstration of that format. And from here, we can combine all of these into an explanation for AI such that AI knows that it's going to be handed each of these specific components. And then whenever you write an actual prompt, you can structure that prompt to follow all of these components. And by adding this instruction on the top, AI will know what each of these components mean, and it will bring all of them together whenever it's going to generate an output for you. So this is, as I said, this is advanced stuff about artificial intelligence. So I really hope you have benefited from this, that you have enjoyed going through these instructions and these explanations, because this is actually the result of more than a year of organizing these prompts and playing with them and making improvements and testing, right? And the commands themselves, they represent this knowledge, right? So you can go to the section of the template where you can see all of the commands, and there you can see this for yourself, right? So you will see that every single prompt follows this structure. Some of them might even have some extra information in there, but all of them have all of these informations. So if we come here to the template, into the voice note AI agent, here in the components tab, you will see that there are the hubs, super tags, and here you will find all of the commands, right? So if you go to any of these and you can expand them here, you can command or control click to open on the sidebar. And if you look at all of these, all of them are going to follow the same structure. So as you can see, there's the persona, the action, steps, the format, the example, and the context. And this is very good to reproduce reliable outputs, because these commands are being run by many times by many different people, right? So it's really important for them to be reliable and for them to be repeated and to provide a good structured answer every time. So this is what this entire structure that we've been talking about enables us to do, right? So when we follow this structured prompt, we can get reliable and structured outputs that always follow the same pattern. Of course, we should always consider that there are possible hallucinations, that AI itself as a model is not always going to generate these answers perfectly. But let's say 95% of the time, outputs are going to be structured. They are going to be following everything that we've described in this prompt. And this is a powerful way to create AI commands and AI structures in Tana. So I really, really hope you enjoyed this video. If by any chance I have gotten too far, or maybe I went too deep into AI, please forgive me. I'm doing my best to share all of the knowledge that I have acquired over the years and over the several months that I've been using Tana. This was my best effort in order to provide a comprehensive explanation of something that is inherently more advanced, but something that brings with these advanced features very advanced and powerful effects that you can have inside Tana. So this opens up powerful opportunities and very amazing possibilities for whatever you want to build using AI commands in Tana. So I'm really excited to see what you can build with this, how you can improve the prompts within the voice note AI agent itself. So I invite you to play with this and to share your experiences in the community. If you are playing with AI prompts and modifying them, I really want to know what you're up to. And if you want my guidance or my help, leave a comment in the Circle community. You can post this either in the cooperative commands space or as a request or a question. So go ahead and apply these into your work and share with us in the community how this has played out to you. I hope you have a great time playing with these AI commands, and I'll see you around. Take care.